Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm DV LeBron. Today's my very special guest is Mr. Trace Atkins. You might know him from the fish guy there in Waxahachie with the fish restaurant, but he's also running for City Council Place One. How you doing?
I'm doing great, DV. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on and answering questions for the people of Waxahachie. Some people may not know who you are. Uh, there's a lot of new people in the city. If you haven't noticed, it's kind of growing, ain't it? Um,
Absolutely.
Maybe kind of just introduce yourself.
So, you know, Trace Atkins. I'm a fifth generation from right here in Waxahachie, Texas. I was born about 2 blocks from where I live. Um, I can't begin to tell you that my love for this town. It's like some of us call it a sickness. We grow up thinking that we're going to move away, but you can't do it, man. It's just there's nothing like this place, and I try to describe it to people, but I can't. So, um, a little bit about me: I'm a commercial fisherman by trade. I spent about the last 20 years fishing out of Galveston, Texas. Started a fish market and restaurant here because that was kind of part of the plan, you might say. We also have a wholesale lobster company here in Waxahachie, and between the two, we employ around 30 people. Um, most all of my immediate family live here. Most of their kids and as well live here in Waxahachie, as well as extended family members. I come from a big family, so got to
Yeah.
be careful talking about me around town. You might be
Yeah.
talking to a relative.
Might be talking to somebody who knows trades. Well, it's always nice when somebody comes back to the community and wants to help the community. I mean, what comes to mind is like John Garrett coming back to town and open up the Texas Theater, and then you open up a fish
Absolutely.
place and employ people in the very town that you're from for generations. Now, what made you want? And first, before I get into it, thank you for wanting to serve your community. There's nothing like you know running for office, getting your name dragged through mud, going through
Right.
all the drama that is Ellis County politics. So I know that that's a hard decision, and I know that it's something that it's a noble to stand up and want to serve your community. So thank you. I thank every candidate that comes on.
I appreciate it, DV, and you're absolutely correct. It's a thankless job at times. You got to have thick skin. You got to be able to take a punch, and you need to have a plan. You need to have composure, and you need to keep your eye on the ball, because at the end of the day, you can't get drug into some rabbit hole. And when my goal is to make Waxahachie a safer, better place, and that's a constant battle. I'm not throwing anything at anyone. I mean, we do the best we can with what we have to work with, but
Yeah.
uh, it's something that is extremely important to me.
Yeah, and it has to be for to put yourself through it. Now, I like to ask candidates their fundamentals.
Sure.
And one of the fundamentals is, what is the proper role of government in the lives of the people of Waxahachie?
So government in general has become almost an enigma. We need services. We need government backed services. We need law enforcement. We need firefighters. We need a justice system that protects the citizenry. We need utilities. We need water, and it. We need streets. We need infrastructure. It is a very important role to a thriving community.
Yeah, it is a very and in those basic functions, it definitely is. Um, there was a lot of things that happened in well, before I go into that, what really motivated you to run?
So I, I've spent about the last 2 decades working in fisheries politics. I spent a lot of time in D.C. dealing with congressmen, senators, giving testimony and helping um, be a steward of a federal resource. Um, that was an eye-opening experience for me, and I did it um, for what was I felt like was best for my family, my livelihood. My job depended on having a good, healthy stock of fish. This is a little different animal. This is more heartfelt for me because I feel that I've gained a lot of experience. I've gained the ability to work with people from all walks of life. I promise you this: if you want to get along and you want to work with me, I'll work with anyone. I'll listen to you, even when I maybe don't agree with you. It's important that we continue to have that open dialogue because let's face it, if I got everything I wanted, DB, I would inadvertently harm people that I don't even know, and that's not right.
No, it's not. Now, it's there is a lot of issues affecting the city, and it's a growing city. I don't even go with town anymore. It's a growing city. There's a lot of people that came, there's a lot of new houses, and there's a lot of growing pains with it. And one of the issues that everybody talks about online and just about when you talk to them is the way the city has grown and the traffic and the just the congestion, and some people are like, man, we're building way too many houses, we're building what are your thoughts on how we're building, and what are some of the things that you'd like to see if you were elected on the way Waxahachie builds?
So, at the end of the day, we have zoning maps, and some of that stuff has already been declared, whether it be industrial, light industrial, residential, commercial, and in the state of Texas, when you have something that is zoned correctly for what you're wanting to utilize it for, it's called by right. That you can't prevent someone from building something that meets all the requirements of that zoning, but we can go about it in a manner in which we're prepared for it. You know, I'll give you an example. I talked to a gentleman just the other day. He lived in Duncanville. He moved from Duncanville to DeSoto because a lot of, for example, apartment complexes just started blowing up out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Multi-family type stuff, and it just changed. It changed the community, and so they moved to DeSoto. And the same thing happened there. And he's like, "If you're elected, are you gonna allow them to keep building these huge apartment complexes?" And I'm like, well, that's almost a trick question, DB, because there's certain aspects of it that you can't control. I mean, this we live in a capitalistic society. We have a right to conduct business, and if as long as you're following the rules, there's really nothing that you can prevent. Now, that's where preparedness comes in. We need to be taking a look at some of these zones, and I can't wait to actually get behind the curtain, so to speak, because there's a lot of that stuff that I've you dig around online and you look for the things, and our city website is a massive amount of information, but at the same time we need I need to get with people that can bring me up to speed on where we are, what we're doing, and why we're doing it. Every single ordinance that we have on the books should be reviewed over every so often, just because as we change, as we grow, we need to know why was that ordinance written, what purpose did it serve, what was the benefit that we got from it, and is it still applicable today? The state of Texas does it. What is it? Every 5 or 10 years, they review every statute on the books.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
There, there is
it's a daunting task, but it's again, it's that none of this stuff's going to be easy. None
Yeah,
of it.
no, not at all. The other thing that people talk about, and it's the second greatest behind the school, the second greatest part of your tax bill on your mortgage would be the
Yep.
city taxes. And so people are struggling with home taxes, and they often, every time tax time comes around, people are like, "Whoa, well, I got this tax bill, is just killing me," and there's always talk about that. And last year there was a more modest cut to the rate, and there was a 1% homestead exemption, I think it was. I could be wrong. If you're elected to council, what is going to be your stance on taxes, and would you support raising the homestead exemption?
Absolutely. And to get straight to the point, I am a firm believer that we can do better. There's never not room for improvement, and the burden can't always fall upon the taxpayer. I'm a small businessman. I've started from the ground up 4 companies, and I run on a budget, and if the money's not there, I have to make tough decisions. The answer cannot always be, well, raise taxes. It just can't be. But I mean, we're struggling as a country. We're struggling as a state. We have tough road ahead of us, and
Yeah.
we have to find a way to maximize every dollar. That's one thing I can tell you. On a boat, we're constantly polishing, we're constantly repairing, we're constantly checking our gear because it's what keeps us alive.
Yeah.
You don't need that stuff when it's slick, calm, and sunny outside. But let me tell you, brother, you get into some rough weather, and you want to know that your equipment is wired tight. So
Yeah.
we need that same approach at the city level. We need to make tough decisions. Do we need this? Do we need that? Can we do better? And the answer is yes, we can. There's always a way to improve.
Government can always find a reason to grow. I've been with government. I've been with government for a very long time, and I can tell you there's always a reason why we need more and why, more and more and more. And so you're going to be put into a position where you have very well-meaning city staff that are going to approach and say, we need this, we need
Absolutely.
that. And that in there comes in where, you got to hold accountability, like your sign says. Are you prepared to hold them accountable on those things, on the different ways that are being
Absolutely.
spent, etc.?
Unequivocally. That is where I feel that I bring something to the table that a lot of folks don't. My experience again at the national level, we have tough decisions to make, and I should be able to sit down with whether it be the city manager, department heads, what have you, and discuss those things. And there's never one right answer. Today it might be, and I'll make up an example. Today it might be we need a fire truck. Our city is growing to the point that our coverage is dangerously low. And this is a hypothetical, but we also need streets. We also need infrastructure. We need this. We need that. We have to sit down as a team and make those tough decisions. I sit in a room with commercial fishermen from Florida to Brownsville. If you had ever thought that you could get them to agree on anything, they seem like just an impossible, daunting task. And we pulled those guys together and we said, look, we're going to have to make some tough decisions. We voluntarily cut our allocation of fish in half.
Wow.
Okay, that's not an easy thing to do. I was taking food off of my own table,
Yeah.
but it was what was right for the fishery.
Yeah.
So that's where it comes when you can look someone in the eye and you say, look, I'm not asking you to take it on the chin. I'm asking you to stand in the trench with me and we'll take it together. But we're going to work out of this together.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, how important is transparency to you?
It's huge. I don't ever want to be in a position to where someone feels like they can't ask me a question, and if I don't have the answer, it is my responsibility to follow up.
Yeah.
It's not their responsibility to chase me down. It's my responsibility to follow up.
Yeah.
And transparency is everything. That's how you build trust. That's how you build accountability. If you can get out with the people and talk with them, listen to them, and listen, as well as I do. There are people that just flat out don't want to get along. I'm a solution oriented individual. Problem oriented individuals, I'll listen to them, but all they want to do is tell me why we can't do something. I'm not about that. I want to know. Hey, let's sit down. Let's talk about this. Let's find common ground. Maybe it's not the street repair, or maybe we can't do it now, but let's start chopping away at it. Let's start putting some money back. Why do we have to spend every dollar that we bring in every year?
Yeah. And there's been, when it comes to like spending dollars, there was money, the annex went over, and then the main city hall ended up that there was going to be a renovation there, and that went over, I believe, $10 million. What are your thoughts on that?
It's all about accountability. I'm building a project out on East Main right now. I started this project 2 years ago. Pricing's not the same today as it was 2 years ago.
No.
Um, but here's what I will tell you: it is my job to keep that project on task, and I'm proud to say right now it's a multi-billion-dollar project, and I am under budget.
Fantastic. Now, you're a business owner in the city, so you're probably best suited for this question. What can the city do better to promote business within the city limits?
Well, it's you know I have a unique perspective in that um, I own several small businesses here, and I can tell you that we need small business. And I'm not talking about just guys like myself. There's small businesses that are bigger than me. There's small businesses that are much smaller than me. But I will tell you this: we need more of those, because those are the mom and dads that raise families here. They have, they donate to the soccer teams, the baseball teams, the football teams. Without small business, our community it's nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And those, like you were saying, those small businesses are would hire too. They hire people
Absolutely,
that,
absolutely.
like you have your employees and stuff that did did, as far as when you started the business, is did you think that the city of Waxahachie was made it easier for you to start a business, or was there some extra challenges that maybe as a councilman you would like to address?
I'm all about customer service. I in the restaurant world, we train. Our staff is constantly being challenged to deliver excellent customer service. And my wife, she was a hospital administrator. She ran a huge surgical facility up on Central Expressway. Same thing. She's all about customer service. And I won't approach the city any differently. We need to be a resource for the community. We need to help our businesses grow and flourish. I mean, they're what pays our salaries. They're the tax dollars. They are the heartbeat of this community. And you look at, like I said, big corporations. I have nothing against them. I do business with several of them, and there's some good ones out there. But you don't see that grassroots taking care of our own at that level nearly as much as you do the local guy that has a restaurant or a lumber yard or what have you. Yeah, his product may cost a few pennies more, but every dollar that you spend with him goes right back into our community
Yeah.
because he lives here.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the cool thing about supporting small business. Always support small business. All the businesses in town that are small, these people are just barely trying to make it. And
That's
you
right.
help them in your community. I'm a big supporter of our small business. Um, One of the things that I didn't bring up when we were talking about growth and stuff is uh, one of the big things that are popping up is these municipal utility districts,
Yep.
and how they tax, and there's big issues with that. But I guess there is some convincing that can be done, or some things that the city could work out with them to make them uh to change them up so that they work differently than what they do, and more of the tax dollars come into it. Is that something, have you looked into MUDs, and what would you like to do to address those things?
I have a very high level view of MUDs, and I've that question's been brought up to me a couple of times. So I have been drinking through a fire hose lately, trying
Hmm.
to get on top of that. And I don't know what the answer is. I can tell you that based upon face value from what I've read, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I think we can do better. Now, there's always common ground. There's always a way to generate revenues to replenish that investment that those private, you know, developers made into infrastructure. Because if the city reaches out and grabs that and makes it part of the city limits, then those I would think that those MUDs would go away, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I, that's just something that gets brought up often, and they're trying to fight it on the state level, and there's been meetings where grassroots people have shown up. There's some big issues with that, but
Absolutely.
it is quite complex. I'm not even gonna lie, it is quite
It
complex.
is. And I give you my word, DB. I'll I will get studied up on that one.
Excellent. Now, no, and the thing is that the candidate doesn't have to know everything.
No, exactly.
I don't expect that from you. You know, when I'm interviewing the incumbent, then those are questions that they got to be prepared to answer. They're in the seat, so it's a little bit different. Now, one of the major things that, and you alluded to this earlier, you talked about it. One of the major functions of government is public safety. I've talked with Chief Weiser. He gave me a tour of Waxahachie PD, hung out with Officer Young. I mean, it was a fantastic little tour, and got to see them up close and what they do. They're top notch. What are your thoughts on law enforcement, keeping them properly funded? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you, DV. I never miss an opportunity to love on law enforcement. It's just those guys. You talk about a thankless job. Um, I wish I wish they made much more than they do. But at the end of the day, we have so much to work with. And again, I go back to finding creative ways to either save or generate revenue, and that is key. We have money at our disposal that could be utilized more efficiently. You and I both know that. We just have to find out where they are, and that's again, that's not throwing dispersions or darts at anyone. That's the fact of the matter. I mean, if you don't keep your eye on things, they'll get out of control. So I tell my deckhands, my guys that work for me on the boats every day. It's like every day when you get out of your bunk and you step out on that back deck, make it a better back deck than it was the day you went to bed.
Yep.
And this perfection is not obtainable,
Yeah.
but it doesn't hurt to try for it. But I can tell you, we have some really good guys on law enforcement. We got some great firefighters. We really and truly are blessed to have what we have, because there's a lot of communities that don't. But I will tell you this: we're with the rate that we're growing, we got to keep that at the forefront, because you take your eye off that ball for just a few minutes and you could really damage that small town charm that we've all grown to love here in Waxahachie.
Yeah. Um, it is a beautiful city. I've enjoyed living here very much so. And I didn't even grow up here. You've seen so much change in it, being here, and then generations, just the change that has happened in this place.
My grandfather graduated from Waxahachie High School in 1928.
Wow. Yeah, that's change. That's definitely change. Um, One of the things that come up is how, and this has been a something that's been thrown around, the mayor being an elected position or not. What are your thoughts on that? Or would you vote for that if that charter came open?
I I can't say that I would or I wouldn't, because I honestly don't. We have a city manager municipality. Okay, the mayor, he has very limited power. So I mean, it's not that he doesn't have the ability to make decisions, but it's not like he's running the city on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
He's one member of a 5-member council,
Yeah.
and he has a right to call special meetings. He gets to appoint people to different boards and things of that nature, and he gets to go out into the community, and he gets to do a lot of the the feel good things,
Mhm.
and it's an important role. It's something he or she needs to be seen. And so I don't know if we want to turn it into a popularity contest. I mean, are we really doing anything to better the community? I don't know, but I would be willing to sit down with people from various thoughts and discuss it.
Do you think that the council should, because you were just saying that it's kind of, do you think that the council should have a greater role, maybe changing the charter there?
Well, that's a big can of worms, DV. We have a charter. It's that would be it's again something to discuss. But we've been a city manager municipality for forever. And it works, and when it's utilized the way it was designed, I think it does a great job. The city manager is managed by the 5 members of council,
Yeah.
and if the council wants answers to questions, they ask the city manager. I mean, he's in charge of the day-to-day operations of the city, and he should be able to provide those answers. I think where some of the frustrating part comes in is that when council members are out in the community and they're asked questions that they can't answer, because maybe it wasn't brought up in the meeting, or maybe it's too fresh, or what have you. That's where guys like myself, if I tell you that I'm going to look into this, you can bet you can take that one to the bank. I'll look into it and I'll follow back up with you.
Yeah. Well, I could go on forever on these interviews, but we're kind of running out of time here. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut up and give you the mic, and you speak directly to the people of Waxahachie and let them, just give them your speech.
So again, vote Trace Atkins. I'll bring accountability. I'll bring integrity. I'll bring honesty, and I will work endlessly, tirelessly to make this place the place that I've always loved and I will continue to love.
And that's good. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's been cool getting to. This is a good thing about this show is I get to meet these cool people along the way, and meet all these connections and all these different walks of life. And you're over here talking all this language of a sailor, and I'm a sailor, so I'm like, you're talking about going out on deck, and I'm like, take me out there. I'm definitely.
Oh man, I wish we had time to talk. I just got back from the Boston, from the North American Seafood Expo. It's the largest gathering of seafood purveyors in the world. Wow. And I took my wife and I went up and we walked that floor from end to end for 3 days. And we did it because we want to bring the freshest, most amazing product back to Waxahachie, Texas.
Now I'm going to ask you, I should have asked you this question before I gave you the closing statement, but I'm going to ask you, is there ever any business that would you ever allow any business interest to interfere with your thing in the council? Is there a conflict of interest, or could there be a conflict of interest? Would you allow it?
No, you can ask anyone that knows me. I'm not that guy. It's I stand on my own 2 feet, and when you try to force things like that on me, I just dig in that much harder. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's honest. And I was raised by some really good people, and even those that aren't with us anymore, I take it to heart. My grandfather always said, it's not as important to me what you're doing when I'm standing here as what you're doing when I'm not.
Yep. Yeah. Well, my dad always told me that, when you have nothing, you have your name. Never soil your name,
That's right.
So, well, thank you so much for coming on. Can you stick around after the show real quick?
Absolutely.